My brother demanded my house as collateral for his failed business loan. When I refused, he accused me of wishing him homeless and told our parents I wanted him to suffer. They disowned me in rage. I quietly said, "The bank's about to call you. My name's Alex. I've always been the responsible one in the family. After our parents retired and moved to Florida, I stayed behind in our hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. I bought a modest 3-bedroom house, poured my savings into it, and made it my sanctuary. My younger brother, Jake, has always been the dreamer. Ever since high school, he's had big ideas but lacked the follow-through. From tech startups to food trucks, Jake's ventures always seemed to fizzle out before they even began. Our parents, bless their hearts, always bailed him out, believing that one day he'd strike gold. About a year ago, Jake approached me with another business opportunity. He wanted to open a boutique coffee shop downtown. He was passionate, I'll give him that. He had the location scouted, a business plan drafted, and even a name picked out: Jake's Java Junction. But there was a catch. He needed a substantial loan to get started. The banks weren't willing to lend him the amount he needed without collateral. That's when he turned to me. "Alex," he said one evening over dinner at my place, "I need you to put your house up as collateral for my loan." I nearly choked on my spaghetti. "You want me to risk my home for your coffee shop? Think of it as an investment," he pleaded. "I'll make you a partner. 50-50. Once we're up and running, we'll both be raking in the profits." I shook my head. "Jake, I can't. This house is all I have. I've worked too hard to put it on the line." He slammed his fist on the table, startling me. "So you're just going to let me fail? You want me to be homeless?" "Of course not," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I can't risk my home for this." "I'm sorry." Jake stormed out, leaving his dinner untouched. The next day, I got a call from our mother. "Alex, how could you?" she began, her voice trembling with anger. "How could I what, Mom?" "Refuse to help your brother. He told us everything. He came to you in his time of need, and you turned him away. Do you want him to suffer?" "Mom, it's not that simple. He asked me to put my house up as collateral." "That's too much to ask." "He's your brother," she snapped. "Family helps each other. If you won't support him, then you're no son of mine." I was stunned. "Are you saying you're disowning me over this?" "You've made your choice, Alex. Goodbye." The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding. My own parents had disowned me because I wouldn't risk my home for Jake's latest scheme. A week later, I got a letter from the bank. Jake had somehow managed to secure the loan without my help. But there was a twist. He had forged my signature, listing me as a co-signer. I was livid. I confronted him at his apartment. "Jake, what the hell is this?" I shouted, waving the letter in his face. He had the audacity to smirk. "Relax, Alex. It's just a formality. Once the shop takes off, we'll pay it off in no time. You committed fraud. Do you realize what you've done? Come on, don't be so dramatic." I didn't have a choice. I reported the forgery to the bank and the authorities. An investigation was launched, and Jake was arrested for fraud. Our parents were furious. They blamed me for his arrest, refusing to acknowledge his wrongdoing. "You've destroyed this family," my father said coldly when I tried to explain. Months passed. Jake was convicted and sentenced to probation and community service. Our parents remained distant, siding with him despite everything. I focused on my life, my work, and my home. It was painful, but I knew I had done the right thing. Then, out of the blue, I received a call from my mother. "Alex," she began, her voice softer than I'd heard in a long time. "Your father and we're in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked cautiously. "The bank, they're foreclosing on our house. We took out a loan to help Jake with his legal fees, and now we can't keep up with the payments." I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mom. But I can't help you. Please, Alex. We're going to lose everything. I thought back to all the times they'd chosen Jake over me, all the pain and betrayal. I'm sorry, I repeated. But I have to look out for myself. She started to cry. I understand. Goodbye, Alex. The line went dead once more. I sat there, phone in hand, heart heavy. Family is supposed to stand by you, but sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, even if it means standing alone. A few weeks passed without another word from my parents. I figured they were still angry, or maybe too proud to say anything more. I tried to move on. I poured myself into work, avoided old family photos, stayed off social media. I needed space to breathe. Then something strange happened. I got a call from the bank, not my bank but Jake's. The woman on the line was polite, but firm. Mr. Alex Carter? Yes. We're calling to confirm your current address. There's some urgent correspondence regarding the business loan you co-signed for Jake Carter. My stomach dropped. I didn't co-sign that loan. I reported the forgery months ago. He was arrested for it. She paused. I understand, sir. But the loan hasn't been settled. Payments have stopped. Unfortunately, since the debt still has your name attached to it due to incomplete paperwork from the fraud claim, the recovery process now includes your assets. I swear I felt the floor tilt under me. My assets? You're saying my house? Yes, sir. Unless this gets resolved quickly, the account will escalate to collections. You may want to speak to a legal representative. I hung up. I couldn't breathe. Jake's forgery was supposed to be taken care of. I had all the documents, the police report, the emails with the investigator. But now it was all coming back, because someone had let the paperwork fall through the cracks. I called the detective who worked my case. Voicemail. I left messages. No reply. I called the bank's fraud department. They gave me the runaround. We'll escalate this. We're sorry for the confusion. We'll look into it. But no clear answers. And then, the real punch in the gut came. I got served. A notice. Court date set. My house was listed as part of the lawsuit tied to the unpaid loan. I drove straight to Jake's apartment. The same crappy building he'd been in before. I hadn't seen him since the court date months ago. I pounded on the door. He opened it with a lazy smirk like nothing had happened. What? He said. They're coming for my house, Jake. The bank. Your bank. He rolled his eyes. Still? I thought that was all handled. No. You didn't handle anything. The paperwork never went through. They're treating it like it's still on me. He shrugged, like this was nothing. You're overreacting. I snapped. I shoved him hard against the doorframe. You ruined my life and you don't even care. He pushed me back, but weaker. I could see it now. He was worn out. Pale, thinner. His place was a mess. Dishes stacked everywhere. Takeout containers. He wasn't thriving. He was circling the drain. You think you're so perfect. He spat. You always think you're better than me. I gave you every chance. You're the one who burned it all down. He looked away. I think for the first time, he actually felt ashamed. Then he muttered something I almost didn't catch. I did it because Dad told me to. I blinked. What? He didn't look at me. Dad told me to use your name. He said you owed it to the family. He said if you wouldn't do it willingly, then I had to do what I had to do. My mind reeled. Dad knew you were going to forge my name? Jake nodded. He said you'd get over it. That you wouldn't let your own brother go to jail. He said it was the only way to make you useful again. I stood there in silence. All this time, I thought Jake had acted alone. I thought my parents had been manipulated after the fact. But no, they were in on it from the beginning. They used me. All those phone calls, all that guilt, all that disowning, it wasn't just blind loyalty to Jake. It was part of the plan. I left without saying another word. That night, I poured myself a drink, sat in the dark, and looked around my home. The walls I painted. The floors I refinished. The roof I paid to replace. Every corner of it was mine. My work. My peace. And they were trying to take it from me. The next day, I contacted a new lawyer. A shark. Someone with no emotional ties to anyone in this story. I handed over every document, every voicemail, every text. I laid out the betrayal, the fraud, the cover-up. He looked over it all and said, "This isn't just forgery. This is conspiracy. And we're going to burn them." I didn't say anything. Just nodded. I wasn't just going to protect my house. I was going to uncover every lie. And for once, I was going to make them all feel the consequences. The lawyer, his name was Reuben, was all business. He didn't ask about how I felt or how deep the wounds went. He only cared about the facts. And that's what I needed. Within a week, he had filed motions to halt the foreclosure, citing the open fraud claim. He also sent a formal letter to Jake and my parents informing them that we were pursuing civil damages for conspiracy and financial fraud. The silence that followed was almost louder than a response. Then, one afternoon, I got an email from someone I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "You need to see this." I almost ignored it. But something made me click. The message was short. It said, "Check the attachment. This is what your dad's been up to." There was a PDF attached. I opened it. It was a copy of a notarized agreement between my father and Jake, a private loan between them dated 2 months before Jake asked me to put my house up. The wording was strange. It mentioned, "using all available family assets if necessary," and "leveraging property under familial ownership." At the bottom, both their signatures were clear. They had planned this before Jake even showed up at my house. I sat there staring at it. I didn't know the sender. No name, just a burner Gmail. I called Reuben right away. He reviewed it and said, This is golden." But the twists weren't done. 2 days later, Reuben called me with a tone I hadn't heard before. "Alex," he said, "you need to sit down for this. Okay, your father, he's under federal investigation." I blinked. "What?" Reuben continued. "Apparently, he's been involved in a series of questionable loans through a shell company he set up. The feds are looking into tax evasion and fraudulent financial reporting. Your case tipped a few things loose. They're expanding the investigation now. So this wasn't just about me. My parents, the perfect retirees with their Florida porch and white picket smiles, were hiding more than I could have imagined. "Why would he do this?" I asked, more to myself than to Reuben. Reuben didn't answer. But the next call I got wasn't from him. It was my father. His voice was cold. Controlled. "You've done enough damage, Alex." I didn't respond. "You think you're the victim, but all you've done is drag this family through the mud. You forged my name," I said flatly. "You encouraged Jake to commit a felony. You used me. We saved you," he snapped. "You were wasting your life in that house, hiding from the world. You needed to be reminded what family meant." "No," I said quietly. "I needed to be protected by the people who were supposed to love me. And instead, you threw me to the wolves." He hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, the silence pressing in. A week later, another envelope arrived. Inside was a photocopy of my mother's handwritten journal. No note, no sender. It looked real. Her handwriting. Dozens of pages. Some were grocery lists, recipes. But then I saw the entries from last year. The time Jake had asked for the loan. The entries were short, emotional, confused. "I don't like what Greg is asking Jake to do," he said. "Alex will forgive us. He always does. This feels wrong. But Greg says it's the only way." That name. Greg. My father. The man who had orchestrated everything. My mother hadn't been a mastermind. She'd been dragged along, manipulated like Jake. That journal, whether leaked by her or someone else, showed she wasn't blind, just trapped. I gave the journal to Reuben. It became another piece of the puzzle. One more thread to pull. Things were unraveling fast now. Jake was subpoenaed to testify in the federal case. Reuben said they were offering him a deal if he cooperated fully and handed over everything he knew. We didn't speak. I had nothing left to say to him. But the final twist? It came in a plain white envelope. No return address. Inside was a key. Just a key. On a silver ring. And a sticky note. You're going to want to see what's in the storage unit on Elmwood and 39th. Unit number 217. I stared at it for a long time. I hadn't been on that side of town in years. I didn't know who sent it. But I knew I couldn't ignore it. I drove there the next morning. Nervous. Angry. A little scared. I showed the key to the manager. He pointed me to the unit. I opened it. What was inside? Everything. Old boxes labeled J.C. Holdings. Folders full of financial documents. Copies of fake loan agreements. Lists of properties in other names. Bank statements from Cayman accounts. Business cards from shady companies I'd never heard of. And at the very back, a safe. Inside the safe? Photos. Letters. One of them was from my father to someone named Carl. He wrote about keeping Alex distracted and ensuring the house stays in play. It hit me like a punch in the chest. This wasn't just fraud. It was long-term manipulation. A full scheme. And I had proof. I texted Reuben one thing. We need to talk. I found something. Reuben showed up at my house within an hour of that text. I had already spread the documents across my kitchen table. He didn't say a word for 10 minutes. Just flipped through file after file, scanning receipts, bank statements, the letters, the photos. This isn't just fraud, he finally said. This is federal racketeering. Your father's not just shady, he's criminal. This is massive. He picked up the letter addressed to Carl and held it like it was a live grenade. You're the fall guy. You've always been the fall guy. I knew that. But hearing it from someone else, someone who didn't share my blood, cut deeper than I expected. Within a week, the feds had the documents. Reuben passed everything to the lead investigator on the ongoing case against my father. They moved fast. Faster than I thought government ever moved. A federal raid hit my parents' Florida home just 2 days later. I got the news from a local reporter who'd gotten wind of it. It was already on the evening news by the time my phone blew up with blocked numbers and unknown voicemails. They froze my father's assets. Every account. Every shell company. Everything. He was arrested and flown back to Ohio. It was surreal seeing him in cuffs. Gray hair, expensive shirt, walking with that same stiff pride like he still thought he could talk his way out. Jake cracked the moment they showed him pictures from the storage unit. Confessed everything. His part. My father's instructions. Even the threats if he didn't go through with the forgery. He cried in the courtroom. Blamed Dad. Blamed pressure. Said he wanted to make things right. I didn't speak to him. Not even once. My mother wasn't charged, but the investigators knew. She knew things. And maybe she wasn't the mastermind, but she let it all happen. She called me once. Just once. Alex, I didn't know what to do. You could have told the truth. She cried. I didn't. I wish I had been braver. She whispered. Me too, I said and hung up. I should have said more. I should have yelled. But I didn't have the energy anymore. The hurt had hollowed me out. It was just ash inside. The court ruled in my favor. The loan was fully cleared from my name. The lawsuit dropped. My home was safe. Reuben turned to me after the hearing. It's over. But it wasn't. You see, there was one last piece I hadn't told him. That storage unit key didn't come from some good Samaritan. It came from me. 6 months before all of this blew up, I suspected Jake wasn't the only one playing dirty. I'd seen weird bank statements in Dad's office during a visit. Old habits. My curiosity kicked in. So I made copies when he wasn't looking. I found the storage unit months ago. I sat on it. I let them bury themselves. I knew what they were doing. I waited until they were in deep enough that the feds couldn't ignore it. I let Jake lie. Let Dad manipulate. Let my mother stand by silent. They thought I was weak. That's what they all missed. I didn't just want to survive. I wanted them to burn. And they did. Jake's business license is revoked. He's got a felony on his record now. No loans, no startups, no more coffee shop dreams. He's living in a basement apartment, flipping burgers to make rent. My father is awaiting trial. No more country club, no more investments, no more family name to throw around. The IRS is clawing through his past 10 years of returns like sharks in blood. My mother? She's alone. Their Florida home is gone. She moved into a small rental outside Tampa. She writes me sometimes. I don't reply. Not yet. And me? I still live in the same house. My house. The floors still creak the same way. The porch still squeaks when it rains. But now it's quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. But quiet. And sometimes, that's all the revenge you need.